I think that I've now, at 63 years old, suddenly owned that it's not a bad thing to speak your mind and be who you want to be.
There was like photos with her and Prince Andrew way back in the day when she was like in her early 20s.
The sun hadn't even risen over Montecito when the news broke. But by 6 a.m., Meghan Markle's phone was already lighting up like a bonfire. Missed calls, urgent texts, hundreds of alerts from frantic publicists, lawyers, and a PR team that sounded more like an emergency hotline than a professional outfit. Because this time, it wasn't the tabloids. It wasn't a whisper, a rumor, or a conveniently leaked photo. This was real footage.
But I wonder, she'd probably be funnier. No, I think I'd be funnier. And, you know, her boys are really special boys.
And the woman behind the leak, none other than Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, the fiery redhead, once married to Prince Andrew, and the royal who just turned Buckingham Palace's whispered, passed into Meghan's worst nightmare. The footage was grainy but unmistakable. A younger Meghan, smiling, laughing, champagne glass in hand, aboard a sleek white yacht off the coast of Ibiza, surrounded by the kind of glittering company that could make even Hollywood blush. The camera panned briefly. A luxury yacht party, all designer bikinis, billionaire guests, and the wild energy of people who thought the cameras would never find them. Except they just did.
Eye on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's former home, Frogmore Cottage.
And this time, the person doing the exposing wasn't an anonymous friend or bitter ex-staffer. It was a royal insider, someone who knew the family's rules and exactly what it meant to break them. Within minutes, #Fergie footage was trending across social media. Millions watched as the 30-second clip bounced across TikTok and Twitter. News anchors scrambled to confirm whether it was genuine. But the internet had already made up its mind. There she is, our Duchess of Dignity back in her yacht days. One post sneered. So much for privacy and principles, another read. Guess Fergie had receipts all along. By breakfast time, Meghan's carefully crafted image, the humanitarian, the feminist, the global philanthropist, was unraveling. Before her eyes, the footage clashed brutally with the polished narrative she'd spent years building. From her royal wedding to her Oprah tell-all, to the endless public claims about authenticity and truth. Now, there she was, laughing in a bikini on a billionaire's yacht, decades-old footage reborn in scandal.
Former Duke and Duchess of York were told to vacate Windsor's royal lodge. A source close to the ex-royal told People that Sarah is going to be moving out and into a separate home.
Fergie didn't accuse Meghan of anything. She simply described an era, a social scene she and Andrew participated in. She didn't mention Meghan by name. She didn't need to. The internet filled in the blanks faster than a tabloid headline on a slow news day. That's how fragile Meghan's brand has become. Inside their Montecito mansion, sources say Meghan broke down. She was shaking, said one insider. She couldn't believe it was real, that Fergie of all people had done this. And in a twisted way, the leak made sense. Fergie had always been the unspoken ghost of royal scandal, the cautionary tale once adored by the Queen, then shunned by the firm. After her own infamous toe-sucking photos surfaced in the 90s, she knew the sting of tabloid humiliation better than anyone. So why now? Why Meghan?
Jeffrey Epstein, and King Charles has very much been dragged into this. The king has been heckled.
Royal watchers think they know the answer. Fergie, who'd kept largely neutral in the Harry-Meghan saga, had reportedly grown tired of Meghan's subtle jabs at the royal family, especially her comments about how no one helped her during her early royal days. Sarah felt that Meghan was rewriting history, a palace insider told reporters. She didn't like the hypocrisy of painting herself as a victim while cashing in on royal privilege. The footage was her way of saying, "You're not the only one with a past, dear." By mid-morning, Meghan's team was in full crisis mode. Her PR chief, visibly panicked, ordered a social media freeze. Lawyers drafted cease and desist letters, but the genie was already out of the bottle, and the footage was spreading faster than wildfire. Meanwhile, British morning shows were having a field day. On Good Morning Britain, one commentator quipped, "Looks like the Duchess's privateera had quite a few public parties." On This Morning, royal analysts dissected every frame, comparing timestamps and old paparazzi archives. The general consensus? It was authentic. And then came the real gut punch. A statement from Fergie herself.
Happy Easter, sir.
Delivered through her spokesperson, the message was crisp, cutting, and laced with that signature Ferguson edge. Everyone has a past, but when one profits from moral superiority, honesty becomes fair game. Boom. That single line exploded like a cannon across the media landscape. The implication was unmistakable. Meghan, who'd spent years preaching transparency and truth, had been hiding her own secrets. By lunchtime, Hollywood was whispering. Producers, agents, and streaming executives reportedly held emergency meetings. Would this scandal affect Meghan's multi-million-dollar deals? Could her inspirational Duchess brand survive a hit like this? She's marketable as long as she's aspirational, said one insider. But this footage, it makes her look like everyone else. Ambitious, calculating, messy. The mystique's gone. Back in Montecito, Harry was said to be livid, but not at Fergie. He told her this was the cost of fame, claimed a source close to the sixes. He begged her to stay calm, to let the storm pass, but Meghan couldn't. She felt betrayed, humiliated, cornered. The couple reportedly argued deep into the night. Their voices echoing through the massive mansion, staff described hearing doors slam, Meghan pacing the hallways, phone in hand, furiously dictating responses and demanding that her lawyers do something.
Sarah Ferguson publicly apologised for taking abusers' cash and vowed to cut ties with him.
But even Meghan's fiercest defenders struggled to spin this one. She's human, one PR ally told Variety. She was young. We all have wild moments in our 20s, except this wasn't a random influencer. This was a duchess who had built her entire post-royal identity on integrity, mindfulness, and moral authority. And now, the internet had seen her party like a tabloid headline. The damage was already measurable. Within 24 hours, her foundation's Instagram lost over 200,000 followers. Brand partnerships began reviewing their affiliations. A charity ambassador deal rumored to be in the works with a luxury wellness company suddenly fell through. Behind palace walls, sources claimed the reaction was icy but uncertain. Institution doesn't forgive easily, a senior royal aide said, and Meghan has made plenty of enemies along the way. Fergie's move may have been personal, but the timing was poetic. Indeed. Insiders suggested that Buckingham Palace had known about the footage for years, but had chosen discretion. After all, the royals had always operated under the unspoken rule of mutually assured destruction. Everyone had secrets. Everyone had dirt.
Hey, these jewels here.
But once Meghan began attacking the firm publicly, once she questioned their values, their compassion, their integrity, that quiet courtesy evaporated. And now, with Fergie's footage out in the open, the power dynamic had shifted dramatically. No longer was Meghan the innocent outsider battling an outdated monarchy. Now she was the scandalous, former actress with skeletons in her own closet. It's ironic. 1. British journalists mused live on air, the woman who preached about truth is being undone by it. By the evening, Montecito felt like a war room. Harry reportedly called his father a rare conversation that, according to sources, was frosty but civil. King Charles, ever diplomatic, offered no promises, but his message was clear. The irony wasn't lost on Meghan. Dignity, the one thing she'd tried to embody, was now the very thing slipping through her fingers. As night fell, she sat alone in the garden. Scrolling through endless headlines, Yachtgate, Fergie's revenge, Duchess unfiltered. Tears welled up as she saw old friends and former allies remain silent. No one was defending her, not this time. In that still moment, surrounded by California luxury and silence, Meghan Markle, the woman who had conquered Hollywood, married into royalty, and built an empire from exile, realized something devastating. Her past had finally caught up with her, and the crown she'd once walked away from was still powerful enough to ruin her without lifting a finger. The sun hadn't even risen over Montecito when the crisis began. Inside Meghan's California estate, a dozen phones were already buzzing in panic. Headlines were spreading like wildfire. Fergie drops yacht footage. Meghan in tears. Publicists scrambled to draft statements. Assistants deleted posts. Lawyers were looped into emergency calls before breakfast. Every second mattered because the footage, whatever its origin, had already racked up 5 million views overnight. Shut it down. Contact every outlet, barked her PR chief, pacing the floor in bare feet, coffee forgotten on the counter, but it was too late.
If I was talking Gen Z, I'd say slay.
The footage, grainy but unmistakable, showed a younger Duchess laughing on a Mediterranean yacht surrounded by figures she'd once sworn she barely knew. The air was full of music, champagne, and a kind of reckless freedom that didn't fit the image she had carefully curated since marrying into royalty. By sunrise, the hashtag Yacht Days had overtaken every trending list. Meghan herself was nowhere to be seen. Her inner circle said she'd retreated to the library, her favorite place when the world felt hostile, curtains drawn, lights low. She stared at her reflection in the darkened window. The woman staring back didn't look like the Duchess who had conquered Hollywood and shaken a monarchy. She looked cornered. The betrayal, if that's what it was, cut deep. Fergie, Sarah, to those who'd known her before the crown, had been a trusted ally once. They'd shared dinners, whispered about palace life, even exchanged gifts. But now, Sarah's voice was everywhere, on podcasts, talk shows, late-night specials, and she wasn't holding back. "I warned her," Fergie said in her tell-all interview, her tone measured but sharp as glass. "You can't rewrite history. The truth always resurfaces, especially when you build your empire on a carefully edited version of the past." The host leaned forward, hungry for scandal. "So, you're saying the footage is real?" Fergie smiled. "I'm saying the Duchess has always been good at performances, even before she met the prince." The audience gasped. The clip went viral within minutes. Back at Montecito, the Duchess's team watched in stunned silence. Each new headline hit like a hammer. Fergie exposes Duchess's past, royal rift deepens. Palace insiders. She's finished. Her American publicist, cool under normal circumstances, was visibly shaken. "If we don't control this now," she said, "they'll define her forever." The Duchess finally spoke, her voice low, steady, but trembling at the edges. "Then we redefine it first." Within hours, the machine roared to life. A crisis team drafted a 48-hour media strategy exclusive. Interviews, carefully leaked behind-the-scenes photos, and an emotional statement set to drop on her lifestyle website. Every move calculated, every word tested. But even as her camp mobilized, a colder, quieter battle was already underway.
Name one thing you couldn't live without.
My passport.
Do you have a middle name?
Yes, it's Meghan. My first name is actually Rachel.
Inside the Palace of Buckingham, senior helpers gathered in a place where strategy was discussed behind locked doors and centuries-old portraits seemed to listen in silence. "Fergie has done what we never could," murmured one advisor. "The Duchess's image is fracturing on its own." The royal secretary nodded slowly. "Then let the public see it. We need not interfere, only amplify." Across the table, a communications officer opened a folder marked Project Restoration. Inside were headlines, press timelines, and potential talking points for the royal family's next public engagement. The plan was simple: reclaim the narrative without ever naming names. Highlight dignity, heritage, continuity, the officer said. No direct comment, no acknowledgement, but the contrast will speak volumes. And so, while the Duchess's team fought online, the palace played chess. Within 24 hours, the heir and his wife appeared at a charity gala in London, radiant, composed, and effortlessly regal. Paparazzi photos of the couple smiling under chandeliers were placed next to clips of the Duchess's tearful reaction. Public sympathy began to shift. Even the press that once adored her started to turn. She built her empire on transparency. One columnist wrote, "Yet she's never looked so guarded." Meanwhile, Fergie wasn't done. Her first interview had been only an appetizer. She appeared next on an international talk show, seated against a black backdrop, pearls glinting under soft studio lights.